Our next guest is what you might call an expert on the issue of blackjack, a math wizard. In fact, instead of teaching math, he parlayed his college diploma into a career as a professional blackjack player, and from 2006 to 2011 ran a group of 30 or so card counters, took millions off the casinos. Ready for this? Christian card counters, justified in the eyes of God by saying they are liberating money from the clutches of evil, the casinos. And he was featured in a great documentary called Holy Rollers. Colin Jones, our guest today. Colin, welcome to the show. Thanks for being our high roller, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First off, your thoughts on the Ben Affleck story. Should card counters be banned from casinos?
He wasn't banned from the casino. They backed him off from blackjack. They, of course, welcomed him to any other table game. But it's kind of a tricky subject because, if they were to allow anyone to play the game, if they said, oh yeah, go, we're going to let you count cards, what they would do in turn is they would make the game the rules so bad, they'd make the game so unbeatable that card counters wouldn't play it anyway. So they're not going to let card counters sit there and make, millions of dollars off of it. They would make it like every other game. So it's a catch-22 where, yeah, we have to deal with the cat and mouse game of trying to stay under the radar and getting backed off. But at least it's still a beatable game, 50 years after card counting was first revealed to the public.
What was that in that book, Beat the Dealer?
Beat the Dealer, yeah, exactly.
That's Ed Thorpe.
Uh-huh.
And that book kind of revolutionized things because it opened people's eyes. Hey, here's a game that if we put our work into, we can actually make money off of.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually made blackjack a popular game. Before that, blackjack wasn't all that popular, but just knowing that it is beatable made, for every one person that was able to beat it, there, of course, was 1,000 or 10,000 people that were trying to beat it and losing.
I was going to ask you this later, but we're on the topic now. In poker, which I deal with primarily, you've got a couple of big moments. 1997, the movie Rounders comes out, a new flock of people take up the game. Then, of course, Moneymaker wins the world title in 03, and bam, it explodes. Anything like that in blackjack? I guess Beat the Dealer, and then, of course, Bringing Down the House came out.
Yeah.
Anything else like that? Watershed moments in that game?
Those are the main ones. There was also a thing called The Experiment in Atlantic City where they actually did force casinos to, because it's state-run, New Jersey made the casinos deal the game to card counters the way they would deal it to anyone else. And card counters took tons of money from the casinos, but ironically, the casinos during that week made more money than they had at any time in the history of running their casinos. So it was good for card counters, but it was great for business for them too. But then they just couldn't handle the idea that people were beating them, and so they shut it down after about a week.
Wow, that's very interesting. So they basically opened the doors, come on in, we'll let you do your thing for 1 week.
Well, they were forced to. Yeah, they didn't want to, but the state said, you have to, for this week, you have to deal it, regularly to everybody. And card counters from all around the world just sat there all day playing. But like I said, casinos didn't do poorly overall.
Yeah, they sat there frothing at the mouth. Let's talk about this card counting team based in Seattle, right? You and a buddy essentially taught a group of 30 or so rotating players how to play, how to card count, how to beat the casinos. This was a well-oiled machine with Christian roots, right?
Yeah, not intentionally. It started out my buddy Ben and I, and we were playing, the two of us, we threw our money together, and then a friend joined, and a fourth person joined us, and he wasn't a Christian, and we played just the four of us for a few years. And the beautiful thing about Seattle is that there are so many of these little mom and pop casinos, and there are such low limits that, full-time card counters didn't bother traveling to Seattle. And so these casinos didn't know a card counter when we're sitting there being as obvious as we could be, and so we were able to play thousands of hours and get really, really good at it. Whereas most people, they get into card counting, they travel to Vegas a couple times a year, and they don't have the opportunity to practice like we did. It'd be like someone playing a really low-limit game with a bunch of, with a rotating cast of people and getting really, really good at poker through that, being able to play, 8 hours a day. So we got really good at it, but then we got kind of tired of playing, and some friends from our churches started asking us if we could teach them to play, and kind of the light bulb went on that we didn't have to be the ones going to the casinos every day. We could actually be the people running the business, and that sounded like kind of like a new venture.
Did you kind of fall into this by accident?
Yeah, totally. I was substitute teaching, making $90 or $100 a day, but only getting called in a couple days a week. I didn't want to go back to restaurants because I wanted to. My wife worked during the day. I wanted to work during the day, and so I thought maybe I could supplement what I was making substitute teaching. Maybe make $100 a day. But within a few months, I wasn't answering the phone when I got called to substitute teach because we're generating several $100s a day, and within 6 months we're generating a couple $100s an hour playing. So it wasn't, it ended up being much larger than we ever imagined it could be.
Well, I want to talk about Ben Crawford in a second and your new venture, but let's talk more about this team of Christian blackjack card counters.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, how big did it get for you guys? I read somewhere that you took millions. What was it? Close to $4 million off casinos worldwide, right?
Yeah, when you add together the different teams, there's the church team, and that was the name given to us by a friend. He said, "What is this, the frickin' church team?" Because everybody's joining from our churches. But yeah, there was other teams that we ran before that. Yeah, all together is about $4 million.
Did you get to the point where you were wearing disguises? The kind of thing we see in movies.
No, not really. We did. You can see in the documentary us dressing up, but that was really we would train all of our players. We do in casino test out every 3 to 6 months and make sure everybody's play was really good. And when we would do that, our goal was to look so different that the players on our team wouldn't recognize us. But we were doing it more to make ourselves laugh than so the casino wouldn't recognize us.
You've got so much security in this casinos nowadays with the eye in the sky and all the video cameras everywhere. I mean, they got you everywhere you go. How do you deal with that when the team gets to the point? I mean, you got to the point where you're making some good money.
Yeah, that part's always tough. You find new places, and some of our players, they were experts at finding these places that were in the middle of nowhere, where they'd take a risk driving 3 hours, flying into a state and then driving 3 hours to one casino, and it could be an absolute bust, or they might end up staying there 5 days in a row playing 12 hours a day, and it's totally worth it. Other players, they just keep going to hot spots like Vegas, and every trip is tougher and tougher year after year, but you just kind of deal with it.
It sounds funny. I mean, to me anyway, Christian card counters, you think about the faith and then gambling. Does God support gambling? Is it morally right? I mean, are you the David in the casino, the Goliath? How do you justify it in your own minds? I mean, gambling in some eyes is not the nicest of things to be involved in.
I don't think too many of us really thought, oh, well, the ends justify the means. We're taking money at a casino, so it's okay. I don't think we really thought through it that way. But it was more that, the first thing is you have to define gambling, I think most people, the problem with gambling would be you're playing a game of chance where that the odds are stacked against you, and that's just foolish.
Right, the house always wins.
It's addictive, stuff like that. But when you're counting cards, you know exactly your edge. And, I don't know a card counter that is prone to, a professional card counter. Sure, there's amateurs that are gamblers that are trying to keep the count, but I mean someone that does it for a job. I mean, it's so calculated. It takes all the thrill out of it. It's really funny because gamblers, they get the high off of both winning and losing. Card counters, when you're losing, you're frustrated. When you're winning, you're not even excited because you expect to win, So to us, it was like, it didn't have that same, it didn't feel like gambling to us. And so, it just felt like any other job. That's the way we treated it.
You bring up an interesting topic there. You read a book, and all of a sudden you've got an expert on the issue. And it happened in poker. Everyone watched it on TV and thought they could play, and ends up they're the fish. Invariably, if you talk about blackjack at a party or with a group of people, someone says they're a card counter. Yeah. I'm wondering, how tough is it to be a professional, like a true pro, counting cards, keeping the count, when all the distractions are there in front of you inside a casino?
Yeah, well, the easy question to ask someone if they say they're a card counter is, what do you do with a soft 18? Because the foundation of card counting is basic strategy. And everybody says, oh, I know basic strategy, but very few people actually do. And so it's really easy to find out right away if someone knows what they're talking about or not. But how hard is it? I mean, at least a few 100 hours of training.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like a lot, but it's the same for poker. If someone, oh yeah, well, I play poker on Saturday nights at the local casino, and I'm a professional. No, you're not. it's going to take hundreds of hours of training, both understanding the odds for poker, understanding all that stuff, pot odds, and what hands you're going to play and not play, and then also actually playing in a casino to kind of get that experience.
So what do you do on a soft 18? Do you mind me asking?
You double 2 through 6, you stay against 7 and 8, and you hit against 9, 10, or ace.
There you go, basic strategy. Yeah. Okay, you've written a 60-page manifesto on the subject of card counting, how to make money at it. Talk about Blackjack Apprenticeship, because Ben Crawford and you have teamed up on this new project. What is it all about?
Well, actually, we started it, ironically, in the height of our Blackjack team. We started in 2007, I think. It might have been 2006, but, we were training so many players for our team, and we realized our training was really unique, because most people, they start with basic strategy and counting. We started with, is this gambling or is it investing, and how do you know the difference? What is expected value? Really, what is card counting and why does it work? And we put it together initially for people that are interested in joining our team. We're going to say, well, watch these videos first. If you're still interested, give us a call. But then we decided, why don't we put it on the internet, because there's nothing like it. And it started there, and now at this point, it's really grown. There's a forum of hundreds and hundreds of members, many of which are professional or semi-pro. Some are training and some are kind of hobbyist. We've got a thing called Casino 411 that's kind of like Yelp for card counters. It's a database of the playing conditions of every casino in the U.S. and some international casinos, like how many decks, what are the rules, how many cards does a dealer cut off, stuff that's really important to card counters. And of course, we have a video training course. So we've got some training drills to help people. Basically, we said, what are the things that we would have wanted when we were trying to get into this and when we were playing professionally? And, we've just invested the money to develop all of it, and it's paid off well, because, we have a thriving community.
I'm just looking at the website now. It's www.blackjackapprenticeship.com, the best card counting resource online. So someone says to themselves, hey, I want to learn how to play blackjack. I'm sick and tired of losing money. What do? They just go to your website?
Yeah, the first thing I'd say is stop playing blackjack. You probably need to unlearn things before you play again. But yeah, the video training course is incredibly comprehensive, and then any questions that people have beyond that can get answered in the forum. And then when people are actually ready to take it more seriously and to find out if they have a winning game, we do seminars in Vegas to deal to people, because that's, we were actually trained by professionals. It's kind of a little side note in our story, but, getting dealt to by a pro, you'll find, imagine if you could spend a day with,
Phil Hellmuth,
Yeah, exactly.
So you got blackjackapprenticeship.com. I was at the Golden Nugget recently, and they boast about the one-shoe decks that they have. I'm not a big blackjack player myself, but my brother-in-law loves the game, so I sit down with him. I was wondering, how does 8 and 10 shoe decks affect card counters when there's so many cards in the deck?
Well, if everything else is the same, the fewer the decks, the better. But what they generally do is they make the rules worse at single and double deck games. But we do what's called a true count, which is you just divide your running count by how many decks remain to be dealt.
Okay.
That gives you the count per deck. So that's the way that us, MIT team, and all these major teams have been able to exploit the 6 and 8 deck games as well.
I got to ask you about cost. If I want to take up the game seriously and start to make money at it, there is a cost involved, right?
Yes.
Obviously, if I put the hours in, like you say, and I study from you guys, I'm going to make that money back in the long run. But what does it take to get started here?
I tell people that there's 2 things you need. You need your brain and your bankroll. And a lot of people just want to know, well, what's the bankroll I need? But I always hesitate to start talking about numbers without saying, honestly, you could have $1 million bankroll. If you're not absolutely perfect, you're just going to slowly lose that money. But if you are perfect, to really start to generate some money, 10 grand is a good bankroll to start with. I think if you want to do it pro, building it up to 50 grand would be great. But the awesome thing about card counting is it's so scalable. I started with 2 grand, and within a year grew it up to 50 grand. My wife quit her job, and we lived off of it ever since.
Wow.
Haven't had a job since. So it's nice that it's scalable if you can continue to reinvest your money into your bankroll.
And one thing about this kind of living is it really does bring some freedom, right? Because it's not like a 9 to 5. I mean, you pick and choose where you play, what time you play.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about it. It's not. I don't want to paint it as easy. There's challenges. You see that in the documentary, traveling, and the losing streaks are brutal. I'm sure poker players can relate. But yeah, I mean, once we got a taste of kind of being freed from the 9 to 5, we were addicted. We couldn't go back.
So if I want to come to blackjackapprenticeship.com, is it going to cost me something? What do I need to pay to learn how to play this game the way you guys do?
There's a lot of free resources, but when people actually want to take it seriously, we have a membership. There's a monthly membership for $29 a month, and there's an annual membership for $150. So we want it to be affordable, but we've developed a boatload of software for the site, so it's not free.
I got to ask you, did you like the movie 21? And have you ever said "winner, winner, chicken dinner" at the table?
Oh, I probably have said it since the movie came out, tongue in cheek, but that movie was terrible.
Really?
We took our entire team to see it opening night, and it was painful to make it through the whole movie. We actually took notes, and there's a YouTube video. We've got, I don't know, several million views on it now, but it's called "The Top 10 Mistakes in 21 the Movie."
I kind of like the movie, but I'm not in that culture, so I'm not really a blackjack enthusiast.
Yeah.
So from an outsider, I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. So what was wrong with it then?
Well,
Besides everything.
Yeah. I'm getting pistol whipped in a back room. That's never happened to me. And how the guy kind of loses his cool, and that's the only time that they lose.
Right.
I'm sure a poker player can relate. They don't win every night.
Right.
And it's not that, this one night I lost my cool and I lost. Some nights the cards aren't falling, and you just deal with it. You suck it up and you win 60% of the time. You lose 40% of the time. That you have to have this photographic memory or be brilliant to do it. I mean, we had guys on our team that were electricians or housewives, and we were able to train them to do it. So some of those things were painful to watch.
We had Brian Storkel on High Roller Radio, the director of Holy Rollers, the true story of card-counting Christians. What did you think of that process, being involved in a documentary filmmaking venture like that? Was that a fun thing for you, or was it a hindrance?
Yeah, I would never do it again on that side of the camera. I love documentaries. I'd love to be a part of, making another one happen. But, being on camera is weird, You act, you can't help it, but you say things you wouldn't normally say. You feel like you've got to perform. And the movie is, an hour and a half, but it was hundreds and hundreds of hours of filming. It was really a distraction for our team.
Yeah, it took a couple of years, didn't it?
Yeah, he spent, I think, 3.5 years on it.
Well, listen, Colin Jones, this has been a real pleasure, man. Thank you very much. Continued success. The website is www.blackjackapprenticeship.com. It's the best card-counting resource online. Colin Jones and Ben Crawford, the men behind it. You can learn from these guys and make some money, folks. Colin, thanks for being our high roller today.
Absolutely. Thank you.